Hey, it's Heike. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you something I'm really proud of. I wrote a book. It's called Pursue Your Spark, and it's for any woman in midlife who's felt stuck, off track, or just not like herself lately. Inside, I talk about the 5 traps that sneak up on us, like perfectionism or overwhelm, and how to get out of them. I also included 6 simple worksheets because I know that sometimes we need help making it real. If that sounds like something you need right now, go grab the link in the show notes. All right, let's get into today's episode. It's fine might be one of the most limiting phrases midlife women use, not because it's true, but because it quietly ends the conversation. In the last episode, we talk about getting out of the age cage, remembering that you're not done and that there's still more available to you. Here's the part we didn't talk about enough. Even when the door is open, many women don't walk through it. Today's episode is about why that happens and what to do in the exact moment when you start holding yourself back so you don't shrink your life without realizing it. If you've been telling yourself it's fine, but deep down you know something needs to change, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Pursue Your Spark podcast, and I'm your host, Heike Yates. This is a show for the in-between seasons of midlife, where we uncover the habits and comfort zones keeping you stuck and move you towards strength and action without forcing a reinvention. You know what I see all the time with midlife women? They're not afraid. They're not unmotivated. They're just really good at saying, it's fine. They hold back an opinion. They delay a decision that actually matters. They talk themselves out of what they want, not because they can't have it, but because it feels easier not to deal with it. And the tricky part is, most of these women don't feel stuck. They feel capable, responsible, tired of making waves. If that sounds familiar, this episode is for you because today we're talking about how you catch those moments as they're happening and what to do instead. You may have heard me say this before. Stop dimming your light and pursue your spark, which in essence means stop playing small and step up for the things you want. And one of the 2 words we say that help us play small, help us play small, it's fine. I'm fine. It's fine. The situation is fine. And it shows up in different parts of our lives because you choose what keeps things moving instead of what feels true to you. You are editing your opinion before anyone asks for it. You cut it off and you just say, it's fine. And decisions get made around you instead of with you because as you say, it's fine, you're playing small. You shrink in ways that seem to feel helpful. You're not hiding, but you just don't want to deal with this. And here's a moment you will recognize. You're in a conversation and plans are being made, like you're going out for a hike. You have a thought, maybe a concern, maybe a better idea for a different hike. And you feel that split second where you could say something, where you can offer your concern, maybe your better idea. And instead you think, it's not worth slowing this down. And you say, it's fine. No one shuts you down. No one even notices. The conversation just moves on without you. That doesn't feel like hiding. It feels like being reasonable. You're not holding anybody up, but you're also not getting what it is that you want. Isn't it true that as women, we are always asked to be reasonable, responsible, available? I feel that sometimes in my life, and it makes me sometimes feel stuck. And I know that you guys feel the same way at times. And it's not about being lazy or fearful. There are patterns that we live in that if you feel stuck in midlife, it is easy to assume that you may have lost motivation. But that's rarely the real issue. The real issue is that we have been trained to anticipate others people's needs and be responsible for them and their actions and everything else around them, which has nothing to do with us. But for over years, we have been trained to do exactly that. You may have learned to adjust yourself to keep things running, like when you say it's fine, just to not rock the boat. And you also became the one who fills other people's gaps emotionally and logistically. And I can think of one thing that comes to mind is taking the kids to school. It oftentimes falls on us women to drive the kids to school. There's nothing wrong with it, but every now and again, we need a break. We want to do something else. We have other things on our plate that we keep pushing for later, which drives us crazy because then our plate becomes even fuller. So over time, adapting stops being someone you choose. It becomes automatic. Picture this. A plan gets changed at the last minute. The time doesn't work for you anymore. And you feel that quick flash that actually affects me. But you're not saying anything. When you hear yourself say is, oh, no worries, I'll make it work. You rearrange your schedule. You don't mention the inconvenience. Everyone moves on. Later, you feel irritated. Not at them, but at yourself. Not because you didn't have a choice, because you made a familiar choice, a choice that you have been trained to make. This pattern is one of the reasons I wrote my book, Pursue Your Spark, because I kept seeing capable women blame themselves for something that was actually a very human adaptation. And midlife is a time of transition, and it oftentimes shows us where we're holding back and what we might need to do to move on. And it gives us a chance to edit our life harder instead of ignoring it. Because life doesn't suddenly slow down. It just stops demanding your attention in the same way. If you're a parent, the kids don't need you like they used to. Your calendar isn't as packed for everyone else anymore. The kids don't have to go to soccer practice or do extracurricular activities. So a lot more time is available. And in that quiet, your body starts to notice what no longer fits. And it's really important that we don't ignore it. That's when what used to work starts to feel heavy. And I experienced that when I was working at the fitness club here in Maryland. I had this awesome role. I was a manager. I was teaching classes. I was personal training, and I was doing everything I was supposed to do. On paper, it made sense, and I made a, air quotes, career move. But over time, something shifted. I wasn't pumped about the management anymore. I was adjusting myself to a role that no longer fit me. I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to solve anybody's problems. What really stood out at this point was how I actually felt teaching Pilates. There was such a relief in my body, not managing schedules, not solving everyone's problems. I just had to do the work I loved. So nothing was wrong. There was no big drama or no big fallout, but I could feel that this, just knowing that it meant if I had to stay there, I had to continue to edit myself. I had to not enjoy life the way I wanted. It was scary because I left a good income and health insurance behind. But leaving that role wasn't about wanting more. I didn't step up to a bigger role. It was about admitting that what once fit didn't fit anymore. And that's what midlife transitions tend to do. They bring these moments into focus. And I urge you not to ignore it. Take a piece of paper and write it down, what makes you happy, what brings you fulfillment, because there is a cost of shrinking yourself. Do you feel isolated, worn out, and disconnected from the life you used to enjoy? Maybe your friends invite you to go hiking or play pickleball, and you say no, not because you don't want to go, but because you know you won't be able to keep up. You watch their lives move forward while you quietly sit it out, feeling embarrassed by how much your body has changed. Maybe you feel a shift in your marriage. You're tired. You don't feel attractive. The energy and confidence aren't there, and intimacy doesn't feel the way it used to, even if you never talk about it out loud. Or maybe you love your grandchildren, but you hesitate to say yes to watching them because deep down, a whole weekend would be too much. Sometimes your daughter already sees that, and that can hurt in ways that are hard to explain. If any of this feels familiar, you don't have to figure it out alone. Send me an email and share a little bit about what you've experiencing. What's been frustrating, where you feel stuck, and what are you longing to change? I read every message personally, and my intention is to give you something useful you can implement right away. Email me at heike@heikeyates.com. This can be the beginning of a new chapter, one where your body supports the life you want rather than holding you back. You know, there is a cost of shrinking yourself, even though we don't want to admit it. It's not dramatic, it's just cumulative over time. And when you reach midlife, you're less likely to want to shrink yourself and to feel this way because it shows up, for instance, like you feel slightly removed from your own life. You're looking at it, but it's not what you want. And that's when I changed my career from the fitness center to teaching Pilates only to eventually getting my own studio on my own terms. But when you look at your life and you're not participating and you're moving through your day, you're an autopilot. Everything what's expected of you, it's done, and everything is fine. And I mentioned this earlier. We say it in different tonations, that when things are fine, and we know we want to say more, but we don't quite have the guts to speak up. And that's costing us, because what also happens is you are not recognizing yourself anymore. You're not the person that you want to be, used to be perhaps. And going forward, it's not your life. You're getting used to less without ever deciding that you wanted less because you are shrinking yourself. You started dimming your light. And I hear this all the time. Oh, nothing's wrong. I just don't feel like myself anymore. I hear this so often from so many of you guys. That feeling isn't failure. It is information to take action. Many of us think that we need to be confident enough to do something and take action. We think that we don't have the knowledge to do that. We have learned so much until wherever you are in midlife right now, that we can apply all that context to what we want to do. But instead of moving forward imperfectly, waiting only keeps us in place and repeats the pattern I was mentioning earlier. Overthinking feels productive, but it's not movement. Awareness alone doesn't interrupt those habits. And here's the truth. Confidence is definitely not a prerequisite. It's feedback. When I think back, I just recently became a Capital speaker with the Capital Women's Speaker Club here in Washington, D.C., after I went through a 2-month rigorous speaker training where you learn how to put speeches together, different kinds, that you learn how to stand and speak in front of a crowd with mic, without a mic. You do interviews, which is easy for me because I do them all the time here on the podcast. But it was really a learning process. And at the end, we had to do a 3-minute speech. And of course, we all were nervous, but we had practiced. And now it was time to take action. And what's the worst thing that could happen is that we forgot a line or two, which I did in my speech, but nobody noticed. But I practiced before, and I wasn't as confident as I looked on the outside. I was very nervous. But I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? They will say, good job, you gave it your best try. And that's what we all do. And here's where my approach is also different. I don't want women to wait to feel confident before they act. Let's act, and confidence will be something that builds on the practice we are establishing, whether it's nutrition or fitness. If you think about your runner, or you want to be a runner, and you haven't had the guts to get started, you don't need the guts. Put one foot in front of the other, and you will see how your confidence grows.